Have you ever laid in bed at 2 a.m. replaying an awkward conversation from 5 years ago? Or maybe you overanalyzed a text so much that you ended up not responding at all? Overthinking is basically a universal human experience, but have you ever wondered why we do it? Is it anxiety, a survival mechanism, or are we programmed to self sabotage? So, first, let's talk about the science behind overthinking. Because, surprise, your brain is designed to do this. There are two major players in this mess: the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex is the logical part of your brain, which also makes you human. It helps with decision making and problem solving, but when it goes into overdrive, it turns small problems into existential crises. Then there's the amygdala, your brain's center for fear. It's wired for survival, which was useful when we lived in caves and had to worry about being eaten by tigers, but today it treats things like awkward texts or embarrassing memories as life threatening dangers. Alright, but why would evolution keep this trait if it causes so much stress? Well, it turns out overthinking used to be useful. Imagine you're an early human. If you hesitated before eating an unknown plant or crossing a dangerous river, your chances of survival were much higher. In other words, people who overanalyzed things, they lived longer. Fast forward to today, and our brains are still doing the same thing, but instead of overanalyzing whether a berry is poisonous, we're overanalyzing if our handshake was too firm. So, congratulations! Your ancestors were elite level overthinkers, and now you've inherited the same ability, except it's completely unnecessary and you're just freaking out over emails and social interactions. Some of the greatest philosophers in history were also professional overthinkers. Socrates literally questioned everything. His method asks so many deep questions that you eventually doubt reality itself. Then there's Descartes, who was so deep in his own thoughts that he came up with the famous phrase, "I think, therefore I am." But he also doubted everything so much that he thought an evil demon might be controlling his mind. But here's the thing: philosophy teaches us that overthinking isn't the problem. Overthinking becomes a problem when it leads to inaction. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius believe that we should only focus on what we can control and then let go of the rest. Basically, if it's out of your hands, it should be out of your mind. Overthinking can actually paralyze decision making, which is called analysis paralysis. And studies show that when we have too many choices, we actually make worse decisions. That is why picking a show on Netflix takes longer than actually watching one. So, yeah, you might be overthinking, but at least you're in good company. Alright, let's talk about what's actually happening inside our head when we overthink. Because believe it or not, our brain isn't just being annoying, it's actually following a pattern. For example, catastrophizing. This is when your brain takes a small problem and turns it into a full blown disaster. Like, let's say you send a message to someone and they don't reply right away. A normal brain might think, oh, they're probably busy. But an overthinking brain would immediately go to the thoughts, oh, they hate me, I must have said something weird, or my social life is over. It's like setting off a tiny firecracker and your brain reacts like a nuclear bomb just went off. You ever walk past someone, greet them, and they don't say hi? And your brain instantly goes, wow, they must be mad at me. What did I do? If this is you, then congratulations, you've just attempted mind reading. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. People are way too busy worrying about themselves to be analyzing your every move. In reality, they probably just didn't see you or didn't hear you, or maybe they were thinking about what they were having for dinner. Let's say you mess up a job interview. Instead of thinking, okay, that was one bad day, an overthinking brain goes, I'm terrible at interviews, I'll never get a good job, or my career is doomed. See the problem? One bad experience suddenly becomes proof that everything will always be bad. It's like getting one flat tire and then deciding to slash the other three. It's completely unnecessary. Okay, but let's be real. A lot of overthinking comes from worrying about what other people think of us. Humans are wired to seek approval because for most of history, being rejected by your tribe meant certain death. So your brain still freaks out if it thinks you embarrassed yourself because deep down, it still believes if they don't like me, I might not survive. Dramatic, I know, but that's why we get stuck replaying awkward moments in our head or stressing about what other people think of us. And get this, there's something called the spotlight effect, which basically means we think people notice us way more than they actually do. Like if you tripped in public today, you probably spent hours thinking about it, but everybody else, they forgot in 10 seconds. So next time you're stuck overthinking something embarrassing, just remember nobody cares as much as you think they do. Okay, so now that we know why we overthink, how do we stop it? Well, here's the good news. Cognitive distortions aren't reality. They're just bad habits. And like any bad habit, you can unlearn them. Challenge your thoughts. When you catch yourself catastrophizing, pause and ask yourself, do I have actual proof that this is true? Your brain loves to jump to conclusions, but most of the time it's wrong. Reframe the situation. Let's say you made an embarrassing mistake at work, and instead of spiraling, try reframing it. Like, okay, that sucked, but what did I learn? Shifting your focus from this is awful to this is a lesson instantly stops overthinking in its tracks because now instead of seeing yourself as a failure, you see yourself as someone who's growing. The zoom out technique. One of my favorite tricks is the zoom out technique. You ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, or a year? And if the answer is no, then it's not worth your mental energy. Think about it. Do you still remember the awkward thing someone else did a year ago? No. And if you don't remember their mistakes, why would you think other people would remember yours? The bad movie analogy. Imagine your thoughts are a movie, a really bad one you've seen 1,000 times and you already know how it ends. Overthinking is like choosing to rewatch that terrible movie over and over, expecting it to get better. Shift from overthinking to action. Overthinking thrives on indecision, and the more time you spend thinking about doing something, the harder it gets to actually do it. The solution: take action before your brain talks you out of it. Instead of overanalyzing whether you should apply for a job, just send the application. Instead of debating if you should say hi to someone, just say hi. Your brain can't overthink what's already done concerning the indecision. Here's the thing: your brain is powerful, but it's also dramatic. It loves to exaggerate, assume the worst, and create problems that don't even exist. But once you realize that, you can take back control and you can stop letting your brain run the show, and instead you start calling the shots. So, next time you catch yourself overthinking, just pause, breathe, and remind yourself not everything deserves your mental energy. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing so I know there's people I can make more videos for.